first of all, are you glad to see Nigel Farage in Parliament? 0207 862 2222 is the number. The Reform UK leader finally entered the House of Commons as an MP yesterday. Mr Farage, who was elected with a majority of almost 8,500 votes in Clacton, made a Reservoir Dogs-inspired entrance alongside his fellow Reform MPs. In his first speech in the Commons, Mr Farage poked fun at his 7 failed attempts to get elected.
Mr Speaker-elect, thank you very much indeed. We are the new kids on the block. We have no experience in this Parliament whatsoever, even though some of us have tried many times over the years previously to get here.
And in typical take-no-prisoners fashion, Mr Farage also made a jibe at former Speaker John Bercow. He accused Mr Bercow of trying to stop Brexit as he voiced his support for current Speaker Sir Lindsay Hoyle. Take a look.
You act with great neutrality, that you have brought tremendous dignity to the role as Speaker, so we absolutely endorse you entirely for this job. And it is, I must say, in marked contrast to the little man that was there before you and besmirched the office so dreadfully, in doing his best to overturn the biggest democratic result in the history of the country.
So you see Angela groans and sighs and neighs and God knows what, because Nigel Farage kicks off by saying something controversial, pretty unpopular, at the very first moment when everybody's being as polite as anything to everybody else and there's all to play for.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, he will bring colour to the House of Commons. He'll do all the things that you say. The question of am I glad to see him there? No. If you look at, maybe they argue they didn't do their due diligence. So you look at the kind of people attracted to reform, some of the things the reform candidates were saying, anti-Semitic, misogynistic, purely racist. We should use illegal immigrants as target practice for the army. Hitler was OK. He could have been neutral. Some of the things were so terrible. He can say, well, I can't help that, but they are his bedfellows. And we have to really be concerned that a party like that is attracting those sorts of people as candidates, because they could have been elected.
I mean, it is important to say he did distance himself from those comments. He certainly didn't agree with them or endorse them. Henry, are you pleased to see Farage in Parliament?
Torn, but in a way, I would say yes.
Why?
Because, I mean, he's been on the outside, and Nigel, the charismatic demagogue, Nigel the destroyer, I'm going to destroy the Tory party. I'm going to insult Herman Van Rompuy, you remember, memorably in the European Parliament, said he was a low-grade bank clerk. But he'll be tested in the House of Commons because it's got a great track record of humbling those people who shine outside. But inside, can you hold the government to account? What are your thoughts? What are your solutions to the great issues of the day, whether it's on NHS or defence spending or work and pensions, all the things that matter to the people of this country as opposed to...
Most importantly, the people of Clacton. Those
absolutely, yes.
Will he do the work for them? Is he going to work for them?
Yes.
All right, let's bring into the discussion Reform UK member Anne Widdecombe, who served alongside Nigel Farage in the European Parliament as part of the Brexit party. Anne, how lovely to have you on the show. Good morning to you. Do you think Nigel Farage is exactly what this Parliament needs?
Absolutely. I think he speaks very, very clearly for the people. It isn't just Brexit, though that's important. It is things like woke, what the children are being taught in schools. He speaks very, very clearly with a voice that is respected. I mean, his majority in Clacton and the majority he overturned proves that. And let me say right away, yes, we were selecting candidates at a vast speed. We employed a vetting company that was supposed to dig out the sort of stuff that the media found in about 2 minutes flat. But now we have 5 years until the next election, or probably 5 years until the next election. And we will be looking not only for candidates, not this time, we'll be looking for would-be MPs, and we will be extremely, because we've got the time to be, we'll be extremely careful about the vetting.
I mean, Anne, you could say if he can't even choose a decent vetting company, then the people of Clacton better watch out. But you could also say, couldn't you, that he came very late into the fray because Nigel Farage had declared he didn't want to be any part at all of our election process. He wanted to go and help Donald Trump in America, and he came in at the 11th hour. So the reason for the speed in finding candidates and everything else was all his own choice. So why did he suddenly decide to change his mind, and why did he leave it so late?
Well, first of all, to take the point that you just tried to slide in and said, oh, we couldn't even choose a decent vetting company. So you've never yet employed anybody in your life who let you down. That is the first question. That's just silly. The second thing is, no, he didn't initially want to stand. And the only reason that he did finally stand, I mean, don't forget, he tried 7 times before, was the huge pressure that was put on him. And I can personally testify that everywhere I went before he declared, not only as a candidate, but also as leader, everywhere I went, people said to me, you can't win without Nigel.
What did you think of his choice of initial speech? You know, he decided to use this platform, the one that he's fought so hard to gain, to have a good old knock at John Bercow, who is, I think, has just recently been starring on an American reality show. I mean, he's yesterday's Cold Bananas, isn't he? Does anybody want to use this huge glittering opportunity to take a pop at John Bercow? Why did he do that? You heard everybody else groaning in response. Not
everybody else, for a start. And secondly, he was making a comparison. He was welcoming Lindsay Hoyle, as I think we all do. And he was making a comparison with his predecessor. And you know, that is not unusual, quite honestly. Anyway, everybody's talking about it, so he must have got that right. I don't know. Let's bring Angela in. Angela's shaking her head just as many of the MPs did when they heard him speaking yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, I have the greatest respect for Anne. You know, she's had the most amazing political experience and professional life. But I think that what hasn't been addressed here, first of all, I don't think there was any room for such barefaced insults. And I agreed with him about Bercow, but I didn't think that was the place to do it. And the other thing is what you said about the vetting process. I think with the greatest respect, I think that was a cheap, Vanessa can defend herself, but I think that was a cheap response, because you can say, OK, sometimes we've taken on somebody dishonest in the office and we didn't. You're talking about not employing a vetting company who could do what it said on the tin. Choose candidates who, had they been elected, would be representing people across the country. There were 41 candidates who are Facebook pals with Gary Rakes, the British neo-fascist leader. I mean, you're looking, and it's happening again and again and again, and you have to ask yourself, why is Reform or Farage a lightning rod for the kind of people who represent the very worst of the far right?
Right. Now, let me just say this. When I was a Conservative, I was asked that quite often. Oh, why is it that the BNP decides to vote for you if they can't vote for anybody else? I was frequently being asked that. I was particularly attacked on that when I was a mere candidate in Burnley. So there is nothing unusual about parties attracting, as the Labour Party has attracted some very, very odd people indeed over Palestine. And it happens. The crucial thing is we have got time now, we've got 5 years, to make sure it ain't going to happen again. There'll always be some bad apple. Every party has scandals, never mind candidates, they have scandals with MPs. Every party has scandals. We will not be an exception. But this time, we will at least be able to get some proper, deep and steady vetting, not all done in a fortnight flat. All right, not much irony, I think, in talking about vetting a vetting company. But let's go straight to our caller, Natalie. Natalie is in Buckinghamshire. Hi, Natalie. Is it, do you think, a great asset, a joy to see Nigel Farage in Parliament?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Just quickly to say, Vanessa, I absolutely adore you.
Oh, well, you can say that every phone tomorrow and say it again. That was lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tell me about Farage in Parliament, Natalie.
I think he is the cat among the pigeons. I think he is going to make things very awkward. He's going to bring a bit of life, a bit of colour into Parliament that we've not seen. And he is going to say what he thinks. And he doesn't care. And I think we need that in politics sometimes.
Does he say anything that you think? Is there anything that he says that you think, now he's the only guy that's saying what I think?
Yeah, I think, for me, when me and my husband were voting, we were very torn. But I think he just says what most of the country's thinking, you know, and people are scared to say what they think now in case they upset someone. So I think he's just going to be a breath of fresh air in Parliament.
When you say what most of the country's thinking, are you talking about immigration, for example, or is it about Brexit? What is it that you think everyone else is thinking?
So we need to sort our country out.
That he could sort the country out. I mean, Anne, do you think he's going to be... Let me ask Anne, is he going to be a professional irritant? Is he going to be the thorn in the side of everyone? Is that going to be his role?
Sorry, are you asking me?
Yes.
Oh, right, sorry. I think he's always been the thorn in the side. I mean, you know, he made the greatest change to the British Constitution, getting us out of Europe, without even being anywhere near Parliament. And now that he's in Parliament, yes, I do think he'll be a thorn in the side. And, of course, the great thing about Nigel is he never, ever hesitates to say what he thinks. And he never hesitates to take on the big boys. And he will.
Well, thank you very much indeed. Thanks to Natalie. Thanks to Anne Widdecombe, of course, as well. After the break, we're taking more of your calls. Are you glad to see Nigel Farage in Parliament? Like Natalie, do you think he says what everyone else is thinking? After 7 tries, he finally made his debut in Westminster yesterday. Are you celebrating? 0207 862 2222. That's the number. See you in a minute. Tony's on the line in Norwich. Hi, Tony. Thanks for ringing. Morning.
Oh, good morning to you. How are you today?
I'm all right, thank you, my love. How are you?
Oh, I'm pretty well, thank you.
Yeah. And how do you feel about seeing Nigel Farage in Parliament?
Well, he likes the limelight. He likes sticking his oar in, and they're not going to put up with his antics if he does it too much. The Speaker Foyle will soon put him to rights, and he won't last the distance. He loves the limelight, and I bet he won't last the length of the Parliament.
That's interesting to hear. Do you think he'll forsake his constituents in Clacton then? He won't find it glamorous enough or exciting enough?
Exactly. You see, he normally goes to the States, don't he, during the presidential elections. So he will go there, he'll be up the front again for a little while, and then he'll come back again and stick his oar into something else.
Sandra agrees with that he just won't stay the course because it won't be sort of high-flying enough for Nigel Farage.
I think it will all depend about how much his ego is fanned by the whole experience. I do take the point that Henry has said that history has shown us that even the people that have shone outside Parliament, once they're inside, he's got 650-odd people who want to take him down. So it will be interesting to see.
Do you think he's got what it takes to last?
I don't think so. I mean, he's a transactional guy. He's a showboat. This is going to be a politics, we think now, of service rather than performance. He'll get bored very, very quickly. He's only got 5 MPs, which means the Speaker's not going to call him very often because there is a very serious hierarchy. He doesn't know his way around the business. So let's wait and see. I think that very quickly people will look at him as a more reduced figure. If he isn't able to come up with genuine, practical solutions to the big issues of the day and test the government, I don't think he'll be able to.
Interesting, Tony, to have both panellists agree with you, isn't it? Thank you so much for ringing. Let's bring in Denzel in West Sussex. Hi, morning.
Good morning to everyone.
Hello. So you see Nigel Farage there, you heard him speaking. Is this a great asset to the country? Is he going to make waves there?
Hopefully he will. Hopefully he'll bring the other 2 parties to task, and all their broken promises, they'll have to start coming forward with some of them. Other things is like people are gearing up to start bullying him, I feel, calling him a racist, and the people who support him are racist. That's not really his fault, is it?
Well, you heard about the vetting company. It was meant to check who they were and who the calibre, what kind of calibre these people were, and it didn't seem to have done its job very well, according to Anne Widdecombe. So you might say it is his fault. I mean, he chose them, we assume.
Well, then, if that's the case, Labour has had their own, and so the Tories, anti-Semitic, racist things said by their people. And I mean, they've been established for a long time, and they let it slip by. It's a mistake. Whether it's his fault, then everyone should be held accountable.
What would you want him to say or do, Denzel? What would be your first requirement? If you could script his first major tackle, what would he be doing?
That's a massive question. Right now, I think everyone's main thing is immigration and the pressure it's putting on everything else in this country, as in NHS and schools, just policing, everything. I mean, trying to bring crime under control, and immigration. I think those are the 2 main things. If he was to do that, people will feel safer and feel that the country is changing. Forget the tax rebates or what they're going to do with the NHS, what they're saying they're going to do. They've been saying that the Tories have been saying it for ages, and nothing's changed. It's gotten worse.
All Right, thanks very much indeed. I mean, Denzel makes him sound a little bit like a superhero, you know, that he could just take on all the big guns, or a little bit sort of David and Goliath, that he'll be there just, you know, one of the 5 Reform members of Parliament, and he'll be able to bring everything crashing down if he wants to.
Well, it was interesting that outside the views on immigration that we know so well, Denzel didn't have a huge amount to say on the other things that an MP, that a leader of a party is expected to talk about.
Let's go to Christine. She's on the line in Dorset. Morning, Christine. Hi.
Oh, good morning.
What do you think of seeing Nigel Farage there?
Well, after somebody who spent 20 years in local politics and sadly lost my seat as an independent in the last election, I think it's good to have a shake-up, because I left a certain political party through bullying and abuse and became an independent, which is always hard to be elected as, especially if there's only one of you. But I live in Weymouth, which is near to where the Bibby Stockholm is moored. And there's an awful lot that goes on that the press don't report, that we don't see.
Give us an example, if you can, particularly if you've actually witnessed it or seen it yourself. So the Bibby Stockholm, we know who's on that. This is migrants who've arrived here illegally and they have to be waiting to be processed, and they've been put on this barge. What sorts of things do you see happening locally that you say don't get reported on?
Well, as somebody who has spent 20 years locally, helping people when they come to me saying they're threatened with homelessness or they've got nowhere to live. I was the Armed Forces champion for 5 years, all these sort of issues. And yet when you speak to other councils and say, well, what about our residents here that are paying tax? Well, that's different. We need to take these people in. No, we don't. We owe them nothing. And we've had crimes committed here that don't get reported. We had one where he skipped bail. He was found again. He's now put up somewhere else in a hotel. We had one that was caught with drugs going back onto the barge, bit of police officer. Where's he? He's put up in a hotel.
We've had incidents. Christine, thank you for bringing it to our attention. Good to hear from you on the programme. Thank you all for your calls on Nigel Farage. Later on.